Welcome, everybody, to the DeVory Darkins show. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about this madness that continues to escalate on the Democrat side regarding ICE. You have J.B. Pritzker announcing today that he's putting together a commission to pretty much surveil and dox ICE agents. That's number one. Then you have Big Tish out of New York, they've already launched a portal for people to take photos of ICE and submit it to the authorities so they can also dox them. And Gavin Newsom has suffered another major legal blow to the hands of President Trump, thanks to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So we're going to get to all of this in this video today. Guys, if you're following us for the very first time or watching us for the very first time and you're getting value, do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. This is all about common sense commentary for these uncommon times. And what that said, I want us first, and this is a question for you guys as we go through this story. You could put it in the chat if you like. If you were the president of the United States right now, what would be your first move? Based on these stories that we are about to get into, I want you to give me your answer based on what J.B. Pritzker, I'm about to play it for you, what he says, and then Letitia James. Let's go ahead and watch this now.
Today, I'm signing an executive order creating the Illinois Accountability Commission, a body dedicated to truth, transparency, and justice. The commission will be charged with three core missions. One, creating a public record of the abuses. Two, capturing the impact on families and communities. And three, recommending actions to prevent further harm and to pursue justice. The commission will be led by truly an extraordinary group of highly qualified leaders who reflect Illinois' deep expertise, integrity, and commitment to justice. With support from the Illinois Department of Human Rights, the commission will collect testimony, hold hearings, and gather information and firsthand accounts from individuals, community members, subject matter experts, local officials, journalists, faith leaders, and organizations. The commission and the records they gather will shine more light on the misconduct of Trump's federal agents.
Okay. Again, if you were the president, what would be your go-to move right now? Because what happened yesterday was Robert Garcia and LA Mayor Karen Bass announced, hey, we're going to start collecting all this information on ICE and launch this website. Well, that absolutely failed immediately because Congress is not going to go for it. So that was a loss. Well, J.B. Pritzker and Letitia James got smart. They're going to launch their own tracking websites at their local levels, not at the federal level, okay? And that's the difference between yesterday and today. So if you were the president, well, how would you guys deal with this? Listen, for me personally, I believe Democrats are digging themselves their own grave on this. And it's very obvious, and maybe you guys agree with me, maybe you don't. But two things are true at the same time. Yes, the American people who are not really politically aware that much, and for good reason, they're working every day, they don't have time to do the research, etc. There's no question that they get exposed to the propaganda on social media. So yes, public opinion says we don't necessarily agree with National Guard or some of the tactics that ICE may be using, but when it's all said and done, when they get the results they want, which is safer neighborhoods, they're all for it. That's why I said two things are true at the same time. You do the polls and you ask people, do you agree with the way that the president is going about this? You're going to get a lot of people who say no. Now, conservatives were all in on this. Trump supporters were all in on this. But let's be honest, independents, they go back and forth, okay, just based on media and who they're listening to. So they're saying they don't agree with the tactics. But then if you ask them, hey, do you want your neighborhood safe? Do you believe that people who cross the border illegally should be deported? Right? Do you believe mass deportation is a good thing? You're going to get an overwhelming yes. That's exactly what 77 million people voted for. So Instead of Democrats, I guess, focusing too much on the tactics of President Trump and how he's carrying all of this out, it's interesting to me. Why doesn't he put a commission together to address the criminals in his own state and the city of Chicago? You never see them hold press conferences in regards to that and the gang violence, right? And the criminal legal aliens who are drug trafficking, human trafficking, all of those crimes on the list. You never see this. It's fascinating. Let's continue.
The federal government has chosen to treat the people of this country as an adversary. It is pushing the boundaries of its authority, terrorizing our communities, and disregarding legal and moral accountability in the process. We will not meet intimidation with fear. We will meet it with truth. We can either let these abuses become our new normal and abandon the rule of law and our democratic values, or we can pursue real justice and accountability and transparency. We can do the work so those who break the law are held to account, so this chaos will stop, and so nothing like it ever happens again. Illinois is choosing our path, and I hope others who believe in the Constitution and the promise of America join us in doing so. The commission has been tasked with finding opportunities to solicit information and allow the public to share testimony.
Yeah, we already know where this is going, okay? They're trying to find the legal way to dox ICE officers, to surveil them, to track them, to report their movements. Just imagine if some agency was doing this with law enforcement and SWAT and the FBI and DEA. I mean, just imagine the blowback on that. See, isn't it interesting that they say, hey, you know what? We are all for democracy. We're all for keeping people safe. But what we're going to do as a response is do things that actually makes the law enforcement officials unsafe. Right. So if you're going to expose their locations, you're making them unsafe. And not just that, but you say you care so much about these illegal aliens because we know Democrats are in love with them. By doing things like this, you're actually putting them more into harm's way because protesters are going to show up. Things are going to get out of hand and someone's going to get killed. No question about it. Now, that is the first move from Democrats, J.B. Pritzker. Here is Letitia James announcing her portal, and we're going to take a look at it.
Attorney General Letitia James announcing a new portal where residents can send photos and videos of ICE operations. James says the portal is meant to review and investigate legal violations by agents, and her statement referenced Tuesday's immigration raid in Chinatown in New York City. Meantime, House Democrats say they will launch their own similar ICE tracker. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi criticizing that effort, citing a sharp increase in violence against law enforcement. Coming up.
All right. They're not going to be successful in doing that, the House Democrats. Why don't they focus on opening the government first, right? I mean, I think that's fair to say. All right, let's take a look at what she put up on X yesterday, which I found to be interesting. This is Big Tish. She says, we're launching a portal to review federal immigration enforcement in New York after yesterday's ICE raid on Canal Street. New Yorkers who were present should submit videos or photos, and we will review and investigate any violations of law. So then we go over to the website. Here's what it looks like. It's a federal action reporting form. And, you put your name, your address, etc., all that personal information. They even want to know what your race is, which I find to be interesting. But OK, sure. And then the incident details, other complaint, legal action. I try not to do whataboutism, but it's just like some of these moves from Democrats, you can't help it. What I mean by that, have you ever seen a form as it pertains to gang violence reporting form? Is gang violence form on this website? I'm curious. Is criminal, illegal, alien crime reporting form on this website? Is human trafficking reporting on this website? Probably not. But see, Democrats are continuing to show the world and this country where their priorities lie. Their priorities are illegal aliens right now. I've never seen a party focus so much on one particular group. Besides the black community, we know Democrats love to feed black people this lie about oppression and racism and DEI. But it seems like they put black people on the burner now, and they're focused on this. The irony of it all, right? So, again, there's so many things to fix in our country. this is not something that needs to be fixed. This is a freight train going 1,000 miles per hour, and there's nothing Democrats can do to stop it. Okay. It all started because their prior boss, who committed malpractice on the job by leaving the border open, paved the way for a president to get elected again, if you think about it. So this train isn't going to stop. The president isn't going to stop. They're going to go faster on this. And that's why I'm a firm believer force negates. The more Democrats try to fight back, the more it blows up into their face, and the more they put innocent people in harm's way. If they would just hand over the criminals, we wouldn't have to see ICE doing raids within their own neighborhoods. But hey, what do we know, right? We just have common sense. And common sense is not it's not readily available when it comes to people on the left and their thinking. Okay, so Tricia McLaughlin, she's always in front of the camera to respond to these ridiculous moves from Democrats. Here she is, on News Nation this morning.
Letitia James, we are launching a portal to review federal immigration enforcement in New York after yesterday's ICE raid on Canal Street. She goes on to say New Yorkers who were present should submit videos or photos, and we will review and investigate any violations of the law. This was the video that played live on our air yesterday for about an hour or so. What would you say to the New York Attorney General?
Does the Attorney General know who we arrested off of her streets? Because she should. And to really set the scene here is 9 aliens who are illegally in this country from West Africa. And it wasn't just the fact that they were selling counterfeit goods. They also had rap sheets, long rap sheets of violence, domestic violence, drug trafficking, burglary, armed robbery, assaulting law enforcement, drug possession. It goes on and on. These are individuals who you do not want in your community. And if she was really doing her job enforcing the law and removing these individuals.
What would you say to those? Like, I was watching this live, Tricia, and there were folks who were upset. They were angry. There were federal law enforcement. It was a big presence. They were shouting, shame, shame, shame. For the folks who don't want this on their streets, what would you say?
They don't want burglars, drug traffickers, domestic violent offenders off of their streets. Do they even know what they're protesting for? Because I think it is unbelievable. What about the victims of those criminal illegal aliens? What are the victims of domestic violence, of drug trafficking, of the law enforcement who are assaulted? Where are they saying shame on those criminals? That's what they should be shouting shame on. And actually, Letitia James and these politicians, Cuomo, Mandami, whoever it be, they should be thanking these law enforcement for actually stepping up and doing the leadership that these politicians should be doing themselves.
Yeah. You know, the more we talk about this every single day, the more I'm convinced that Democrats want the chaos. On one hand, they go in front of the camera and they say, we don't want President Trump coming to our city with National Guard troops. We don't want ICE agents coming into our neighborhoods. But they do everything that actually makes that happen. So at some level, they want the chaos, just like they want the pain in regards to the government shutdown. If you think about it, Democrats don't know what peace is anymore. That's out the window at this point, okay? It's almost as if they have become addicted to chaotic, confusing messages, woke ideology, fight against Trump at all costs. Doesn't matter if we have to break the law to do it. That's who they have become. And that's why the independents in this country need to continue to be educated about the full picture of what's happening in this country. Because if we leave it up to mainstream media and Democrats, they'll have everybody believing that what President Trump is doing is illegal, and it's not. That's the interesting part about it. We are so spoiled as a country because of the previous administration that when a president comes in and actually enforces the law, people are just stunned in a positive way and in a negative way. They think ICE agents getting into vehicles with the intelligence that they've been able to gather, going into a neighborhood and picking someone up who has a rap sheet is unlawful. Even wearing masks, according to them, is unlawful. No, it's not. You may not like it. You may be uncomfortable by it. You may disagree with the tactics, as I stated earlier, but none of it is unlawful. And if it is unlawful, or what the Trump administration has been doing is unlawful, don't you think the Supreme Court would have already ruled on that by now? We're 9 months into this administration. We don't have one Supreme Court ruling stating that what the president is doing regarding mass deportation is unlawful. There's no sentence, no language that lays it out verbatim in that type of way. Now, there have been some rulings that disagrees with certain tactics, morally, ethically, But on a U.S. constitutional level, this president is exercising every bit of it. And that's what you want from your commander-in-chief. Now, there's no doubt as these things continue to escalate, like I stated, someone's going to get hurt. So here's what Stephen Miller had to say about all this.
You have Democrats in New York City, for example, encouraging the rioters who are assaulting ICE officers, removing criminal aliens from their communities. You have Democrats trying to create tracking apps to tell the criminals, the fugitives, the rapists, the killers, the cartel members where and when ICE is going to be. You have Governor Pritzker trying to get ICE out of his city to protect illegal alien monsters who are committing crimes against children, against women, instead of protecting American citizens. This is a party that has embraced full-scale insurrection against the laws of the United States. You look at that arrest in Canal Street, for example, those 9 individuals, all illegal immigrants from Africa, almost all of whom were released into the country by the Biden administration. You have among them dozens of arrests, forgery, counterfeiting, drug dealing, narcotics trafficking, assault, battery, theft, domestic violence. And Democrats are saying these illegal aliens caught and released by the Biden administration not only should stay in our country, but they'll violently attack any federal officer who tries to remove them. And then more breaking news reported out by Fox's own Bill Maloogian. 3 people just died in California, killed by an illegal alien on the road, driving a semi-truck that was allowed into the country, caught and released by Joe Biden, and put on the road by Gavin Newsom. How much more blood has to be spilled by Democrats, Sean, before this madness stops?
I don't know the answer to that question because I don't think Democrats care to count. I don't think Democrats recognize the blood that is being shed. That's why you've never seen them do a press conference in the way J.B. Pritzker, Letitia James, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, Governor Wes Moore. We can go down the list. You've never seen them hold a press conference regarding an American citizen who's been murdered at the hands of a criminal illegal alien. Never. And when they're asked about it, what do they say? Oh, our heart goes out to the family. We're trying to do everything we can. But let's get back to Trump. That's what they do. It's gone beyond madness at this point. Now, there's an account I'd like to shout out here because when we do a lot of research for the show, we actually take a look at this guy's account. His name is Dapper Detective, and he does a great job of exposing crimes by illegal aliens. There's another account here, Illegal Alien Crimes. I follow them as well. You guys could check that out for yourself. Both of these accounts, I would say, if you ever are starting to be like, you know what, I need some evidence. I need some proof. So when I run up against my family member, my colleague, my so-and-so, send them this account and just have them scroll right through the feed. Because every single day, these accounts are putting up the receipts of what's happening in our country. This is Illegal Alien Crimes here. They put the photos, they put the names when they were arrested, they put up the rap sheet. I mean, what more information do you need? You say the Trump administration isn't transparent. You say that you don't believe they're picking up the worst of the worst. But then when we show you the information, you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute, that's how Democrats react. But for the people who want to see the research for themselves and you don't want nobody to tell you what to think, do it right here. Go to this account yourself, Illegal Alien Crimes. Picture, rap sheet, they're much more consistent than even DHS's account. So, yeah, check it out for yourself. Okay, let's go to the chats and see what you guys have to say about a lot of these things. Again, I asked you guys a question. What would you do differently if you were the president, given these announcements from J.B. Pritzker and Letitia James? What would be your next move? All right, we're on Rumble first. Shout out to Rumble today. Thank you guys for joining us here live, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see here. Here we go. I like this one. Everyone should download that app and start sending ICE alerts, then watch as all the commies and illegals run. Yeah, that's something that could happen. I mean, it's not illegal. Why do all cities turn blue? That's a good question. I'm not too sure the answer to that. I'd like to, if anybody has heard of a study showing data and surveys and numbers and history to answer that question, please put it in the chat, because I would love to know. All right, let's see here. Pritzker, exactly. Yeah, I don't get it. Do we mask or not mask? Yeah. The military uses ERs to corral anonymous as they choose using tech or better ops. I don't know how that relates to illegal immigration. Here we go. Can we start a website that tracks where all the Democrat officials in every city, state, federal, are located at any moment of the day? Let's imitate them the way that they want to. Let's intimidate them in the same way that they want to intimidate us. Anyone posting photos on this website can be arrested or be an accessory to anything that happens to ICE. Yeah, it could truly backfire on people. Now, obviously, they're going to make it anonymous. I would assume so. That would be the reaction. Let's see here. ICE trackers should be arrested. 50. Yeah, exactly. Love how Pritzker completely ignores the supremacy clause. Yeah. Yeah, somebody actually linked it here in the chat. I'll read it to you guys. The supremacy clause refers to the foundational principle that in general, federal law takes precedence over any conflicting state law. Yeah, why don't you tell that to these local judges that continue to rule against the president, right? That's why they get overruled by the appeals court or ultimately the Supreme Court. Established under Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the U.S. Constitution, the supremacy clause enables the federal government to enforce treaties, create a central bank, and enact legislation without interference from the states. It does not, however, allow the federal government to review or veto state laws before they take effect. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you hear Democrats call for ICE agents to be arrested. I mean, that's not going to happen. Now, we already know there are threats coming in. Let me read one to you guys. Let's see here. This is Nancy Pelosi. Here's her latest threat. And this actually is kind of a segue into our next story here about Gavin Newsom. Quote, while the president may enjoy absolute immunity, courtesy of his rogue Supreme Court. I mean, she's writing this. Isn't this interesting? Rogue Supreme Court. Those who operate under his orders do not. And so our state and local authorities may arrest federal agents if they break California law. And if they are convicted, the president cannot pardon them. Yeah. So shout out to Rumble for putting the link to that law, because obviously this isn't going to fly. There's no Supreme Court that would agree with what she just stated. Okay. And what's fascinating about the rogue Supreme Court, I mean, where do you get off speaking that way about the highest court in the land that, in my opinion, should be conservative? Now, this is a biased opinion, so just give you guys a heads up. You want to know where me, DeVory, I am biased? It happens with the Supreme Court. I believe that the Supreme Court should be conservative most of the time, majority of the time. Why? Because that is the last line of defense when you're talking about our society and our country going off a cliff with progressive policies. We can't really do much about the president because obviously the president is elected by the people. We can't really do nothing about Congress because, again, they're elected by the people. But the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is that last line. After the president has done his thing, after the people have voted, after the people in Congress has done their thing, the only line left is the Supreme Court. After that, I mean, it's crazy. We know this to be true because all we have to do is look at their ruling regarding Citizens United that said, hey, a entity, which is also known as a corporation, is an individual person and can donate campaign funds whenever they want. And that's why these politicians are slave to these donors, because of that ruling from the Supreme Court. That is not a conservative ruling, in my opinion. But at any rate, my point is, I'm going to take a conservative Supreme Court over a progressive one at like 110% every single time. Let me know if you guys agree. Okay. We're on YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. Thank you guys for following us here today. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, especially on Rumble. It's interesting because the subscribers on Rumble, it takes a little longer. I'm very grateful for every single one of them. But if you're watching me live and you are enjoying this and you're on Rumble, just hit the subscribe button. All right. Okay, let's read a little bit more. Yeah, that person who said, let's track the Democrats, great idea. I'm sure Elon could set something up. Yeah. Elon Musk is a little preoccupied with NASA right now, raging against them and Sean Duffy. Pritzker failed in his family business, and now he became governor. He's doing a crappy job. Shout out to CSB62 for the super chat. Thank you. Shout out to American Butch, $5. Dispatch the National Guard. Exactly. A shout out to Tony, 4965. Thanks for all your hard work and spreading the truth. All right. I appreciate every one of you guys. Okay, so let's hop back into it. I told you guys that Gavin Newsom, right? He has suffered another major legal blow, and best way to explain it is to show it to you here. So as you guys know, he had tried to sue President Trump for federalizing the California National Guard to obviously help ICE officials have the protection and the support that they need. Well, we know that originally the appeals court had struck that down because the lower court judge did rule in his favor. Then it went up to the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit said, hey, you know what? No, the president has the authority to federalize the California National Guard. Okay. Well, late last night, the governor attempted to have him hear his case again in an effort to say, hey, if you guys won't hear this, then I'm going to go to the Supreme Court. Well, they denied to hear it. And so this is just another blow for him. And that's why a judge of this court requested a vote on whether to rehear this case. A vote was taken, and the matter failed to receive a majority of the votes. And so the rehearing of this case is denied. I'm kind of paraphrasing because, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to try to read that language. And there was one judge that had a dissent in regards to that. But at the end of the day, and usually these are 3 panels, right? So it was a 2-1 ruling. So the bottom line here is Newsom is not going to be able to get a win over President Trump regarding the National Guard because, again, the president was within his authority to federalize them. It's really clear as day what the language says. There's no disputing it. But when you're trying to, act tough in front of the cameras, you'll say anything, right? Okay, so having said that, if Gavin Newsom is upset about that, then he's definitely going to be upset about this announcement regarding San Francisco.
And now California is bracing for more expanded operations to happen in San Francisco. What we're told is that dozens of federal agents are expected to descend on the city as soon as today. Now, that is expected to include, for example, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They have fanned out across the country to assist Immigration and Customs Enforcement with their operations and in their efforts to ramp up immigration arrests. Now, we are also learning that the Coast Guard is preparing to support those federal agents to come to San Francisco. Now, plans are still being finalized, and the president himself threatened this deployment over the weekend. Meanwhile, there's a lot of pushback from local and state officials. The San Francisco mayor saying that these tactics are designed to incite backlash, chaos, and violence. Governor Newsom saying that sending troops to San Francisco could lead to a lawsuit against the Trump administration. We saw that already in Los Angeles. And as you mentioned there, Representatives Nancy Pelosi also saying that if the rights of people are violated, that there could be criminal charges against federal agents. All of this to say, Sarah, that as we have seen and covered with the other cities where they have expanded immigration enforcement operations, San Francisco could too be a major flashpoint between, again, these cities and the Trump administration.
Yeah, so San Francisco, I don't know why he's going there next. That's my own personal opinion, by the way. I think he should be going to New Orleans. I think that's much more important than San Francisco, okay? And I think that there may be even other cities like Baltimore. I mean, whatever happened with that, But he did go into Memphis, and they've been getting great results. That's why you don't hear any drama out of Memphis. You know why? Because they comply. They don't like the tactics, but they like the results. They were smart enough to accept it. They didn't fight it. Ask yourself the question, why haven't you heard anything about Memphis? From the day one it was announced he was going into Memphis, the mayor came out and said, hey, I may not like the National Guard, but we got to figure this out and find a way to make this work. That was his attitude. And that's why you haven't heard from them. But what you're already hearing here is that the governor is going to sue. Now, my wife and I, some of you guys already know this, we're from California. We moved to Texas. We had been to San Francisco a couple of times already. And I think she loves the city more than me, honestly. I don't really find San Francisco that enjoyable, okay? I think it's a city that has a lot of homeless. The streets are dirty. Everything's crowded. Everything's stacked close together. I mean, people making six figures still have to get a roommate. It's not a great city, in my opinion. Maybe back then, 50 years ago, especially when you're talking about the Golden Gate Bridge, you're talking about Alcatraz. You know, there's a lot of history there, no doubt. But what made San Francisco great, just like California, that all has been thrown out the window because of policies. Listen, it got so bad for San Francisco that London Breed, the mayor, she lost her job. She lost her re-election. She was a short-lived mayor because she tripled down on woke policies. Now they have a new mayor. Not too sure you guys have been keeping up with that. At any rate, and by the way, London Breed is a black woman for all you racial folks out there, and the guy who replaced her is a white man. So that's interesting, right, for the Democrats out there. But that's why I say I don't really think San Francisco should be next. I think New Orleans should be next. I think that place has always had some crime issues. No doubt about it. And what San Francisco really needs is not necessarily crime, but homeless issues. And what's interesting is we remember when Gavin Newsom cleaned up the streets of San Francisco for China, right? That's how Trump says it, China. Now, let's go to Gavin Newsom because he did respond to this announcement, and he says he'll threaten to sue in a nanosecond.
We're going to be fierce in terms of our response. We're going to be focused, and quite literally, this is the lawsuit that I will file within a nanosecond of any efforts to send the military to one of America's great cities, San Francisco, that is enjoying 60% reduction in homicide, or rather homicide reduction that's the lowest it's been in 60 years. It's one of the safest large cities in this country that's experienced an economic rebirth and growth. Only Donald Trump can wreck that. And we will push back with clarity and conviction, and we'll continue to win in court. You send out ICE and masked men, you get your spokesperson out there that knows how to gin everything up, people get upset, and then you say, see, people are upset. Now, like an arsonist, well, now I got to put out the fire.
You know, I think the question that I get a lot, especially in the comments, is about why, like, what is Newsom's game plan here? Why is he doing all this? Why is he so in front of the cameras now? He talks more about federal policies and politics. He talks more about Texas politics than his own state. Why? Well, according to Kalshi, if we actually check this out for ourselves, I think this is pretty cool. Take a look at this. Democrat presidential nominee in 2028. Right now, Gavin Newsom comes in at 35%. The only next closest person, according to the prediction markets, is AOC at 10%. So I think he knew, if I'm going to get the nominee, I might as well just go all into bashing Trump. If I bash Trump, I'm going to be able to get the respect and the nomination. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, growing up in California, this would be, and this is not hyperbole, this would be a nightmare for this country. You thought Joe Biden was bad. You thought Kamala Harris was bad. You see, I would argue this. Kamala Harris, she just doesn't, like, this isn't her strong suit, in my opinion. Gavin Newsom has skills politically that Kamala Harris does not. And he knows how to use those skills in a very destructive way. He's done it to California. So on a national scale, just imagine what he could do. Okay. Now, I'm using Kalshi in case you guys haven't noticed already. This is the prediction markets, which obviously projected President Trump to win the 2024 election, and they were spot on. And right now, Kalshi is running a promotion worth $10 for users who sign up with my link and code, which you guys will find at or below this video. Kalshi.com/DeVory. You'll get a $10 credit when you trade $100. It's interesting how far these prediction markets have come. I mean, it's continuing to accelerate. If you truly want to know what the outcome of something is going to be politically, just go to Kalshi.com. And more than likely, you're going to be spot on. So again, you guys can go to the link in the description, Kalshi.com/DeVory, and get a $10 credit when you trade $100. Okay, well, here's a question. Why don't you guys put this in the chat? Do you believe, based on everything you've seen from Gavin Newsom, that he will be the nominee in 2028? Now, my answer is yes, because Democrats are unhinged. But if I felt that Democrats were able to exercise critical thinking skills, I would think someone like Andy Beshear, maybe a Shapiro, someone much more less radical, if that makes sense. But they're not going to do that, because we have found in this time of ours that being radical is what gets you attention. Fighting against President Trump is what gets you attention. And so I think they're just going to continue to double down on that. All right, let me show you one more clip here from Newsom, because he has been having a meltdown over this entire possibility of National Guard troops being deployed to San Francisco. Take a look.
This is right out of the dictator's handbook. Donald Trump does this over and over again. He says he's going to send in the National Guard to address uncontrollable crime rates, which are fictitious. But first, he needs to create conditions for anxiety. He needs to create the conditions that he can, quote unquote, then solve for. So what does he do? He sends out masked men. He sends out Border Patrol. He sends out ICE, creates anxiety and fear in the community so that he can lay claim to solving for that by sending in the Guard in the first place. This is no different than the arsonist putting out the fire. We need to call that out, and we cannot play his game.
Yeah. I mean, what more can you say about... I get an email all the time about calling Gavin Newsom. So let me just say it this way. Gavin Newsom is scum. Gavin Newsom is incompetent. Gavin Newsom is evil. And the California people know this already. That's why millions have left. And even the millions that voted for him are fed up with him. That's the interesting part about it all. And nothing's going to change in California because they own the voting system. There's no voter ID. It's all mail-in ballots. Whether you want one or not, you will receive a ballot in the mail. And we already know the illegal alien situation. So, if you're in California, you should be making plans to move already, if you haven't, okay? Excuse me. At any rate, speaking of California, let's go to this update regarding the 21-year-old Indian illegal alien, DUI, killed 3 American citizens in Ontario, California. We spoke about it yesterday, but there was an update from the U.S. attorney in that region. Let's take a listen.
Daly, U.S. attorney for the Central District of California. Bill, nice to see you again. Thanks for coming back on our show. I want to give more on this DUI arrest. He had to be traveling at a fast rate of speed. What happened here?
Yeah, I spoke to the DA. My understanding is he was traveling at a fast rate of speed and he did not apply his brakes at all. They do suspect he was under the influence of some type of stimulant. They are waiting for that toxicology report. I do suspect he will be charged with vehicular homicide. However, we're also looking at charges. We're opening an investigation to understand how he obtained a commercial driver's license from the state of California as an illegal immigrant, and we want to understand whether anyone in the DMV was complicit in issuing that driver's license to him.
Of course they're complicit. But I have a clip to show you because people have been studying how are illegal aliens getting commercial driver's license. Well, they're cheating the system in some cases. It's not actually difficult to get one in California, given what I'm going to show you here. But before we get to that, let's take a look at what DHS put on their website about this traffic accident that was fatal. Again, here's a photo of the guy. And, he entered the United States in 2022, southern border, and was released back into the country. And you guys have seen the accident already. I'm not going to play it over for you. It's just really crazy. But the question is, how many more people are on the highway that are in this position? We don't know what their legal status is. Even when they're stopped by CHP, California Highway Patrol, they're not asking them what their status is. They're more focused on the weight and the regulations of driving these 18-wheelers. See, here's the issue with our society in general, and I would say this is more of a Congress issue. We're not going to fix the problem until they start asking people, what is your citizenship status? Just like they ask us, what is your racial or ethnicity? Every time you fill out some federal form, they're always wanting to know, are you black? Are you white? Are you non-Hispanic, Latino, etc.? They always ask you that question. They always ask you, what is your gender? But they don't ask you, what is your citizenship status? That should be mandated. That is something Congress can do to be a part of the solution. So that's why when I hear both Republicans and Democrats talk about immigration, they're a freaking joke. They don't want to fix this. There's little things that they could have done already to fix a lot of these issues. They haven't done anything. And even that stupid bill they put forth last year that we know was a joke, that's why it was killed on arrival, that was a Band-Aid. That wasn't treating the root cause of illegal immigration. So at any rate, the question here is, how many people are on the highway in this particular position? Now, they even put up a phone that people can call if you are worried about these people on the roadway. And this wasn't the first one, guys. Remember, there was another guy in Florida. He had a California commercial driver's license, and his last name also was Singh, but they're not related. Maybe that's some irony for you. Okay, let's hear this clip about the fraud that has been exposed with commercial driver's license and how it happens. It's centered on the test that they take and how they're able to pass the test even though they don't know exactly what the questions are. Take a look at this.
So how does FHP say this cheating scheme works?
We were shocked to see the extent that they were going to.
Brian calls it organized fraud. According to investigators, the men went in here, the DMV on Roosevelt, to take the CDL test to drive a truck. But they are rigged up with equipment to get their answers.
And you see the actual apparatus that he's wearing. He has a chest harness that actually holds the phone.
A red iPhone in the harness, and under a t-shirt, you see the hole right there? So he comes in this t-shirt with a hole cut in it.
Yes.
Now watch this. In a video we've obtained from the DMV, this man opening his shirt. Brian says it's kind of like FaceTime. The men sit in front of a computer and wiggle around.
Their body language is abnormal.
Until somebody outside in a parking lot can read the test questions on the screen in English and then tell them through this earpiece in their language. Employees at the DMV got suspicious.
Most people don't start to disrobe when they take a DL test.
They're unbuttoning their shirts.
They are, indeed.
So the 5 men arrested so far, that's just the tip of the iceberg?
It is.
And this is happening all over the country. Maybe from Jacksonville we can make a difference.
Wow. Yeah. So that is just one way they have been able to expose it. Okay. That is just one way. So imagine all the other ways they've been able to figure it out and game the system. That's why I say, and some of you guys may not like it, and maybe this isn't helpful for my brand, but I don't trust people in Congress. They're not going to fix these issues because they run on this during an election. When an illegal alien has been apprehended for crossing the border illegally and is released back into the community, then finds a way to get a commercial driver's license and then murders 3 American citizens without slamming on the brakes during the traffic accident because he was under the influence, don't you think that would warrant a press conference from the governor? Right? Or at least the people running the highway in California? You would think so. But that's not what we're going to be able to get. Now, if we were to actually look up how is this actually happening, according to Gemini, which is Google's version, They say the ability of individuals in the U.S. illegally to obtain commercial driver's license is a result of fraud, systemic state-level failures, and past loopholes in federal regulations. In response, the DOT has recently implemented emergency rules to close these avenues. Unfortunately, it didn't work with this guy, right? The first right here is non-domiciled CDL loopholes. A non-domiciled CDL was intended for foreign nationals with valid employment-based visas or those living in a U.S. territory. However, a nationwide audit by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration revealed that some states were improperly issuing these licenses to individuals who were not in the country legally or who were beyond their authorized stay. So it's a trickle-down effect. President Biden says open the border. President Biden says, hey, you know what? I don't care if you cross the border illegally and you don't have any documentation to claim asylum. I'll give you temporary protection status anyway. So he rewarded people after they committed a crime. So what does that do? It's the culture. It always starts at the top and it trickles down into the agencies. So once you get down to this level, people are like, well, I mean, nobody's getting deported. Nobody's really getting held accountable. What is this going to do? We need drivers on the road. Screw it. Yeah, but drivers on the road who can't speak English, drivers on the road who are not properly trained, drivers on the road who are cheating on the CDL driving test. That's interesting. Okay, there's much more ways as well. Employment authorization documents in some states, undocumented immigrants, including those with deferred action for childhood arrivals status, DACA, were able to use an EAD or other documents to obtain a CDL. This was permitted until new federal regulations restricted that eligibility. And of course, state-level fraud and scams. Federal officials have found cases of fraud and corruption at the state level. No question about it. I mean, look at Minnesota. Every day there's a fraud case being exposed over there. In Florida, for example, state employees were arrested for selling fraudulent driver license and CDLs to undocumented immigrants. That is, here's a good one. Fraudulent activity was also reported in states like New York, where officials issued a CDL to an individual with the name no name given on their driver's license. Verification system failures. The systematic alien verification for entitlements system, SAVE, which states use to check a licensed applicant's immigration status, was failing in some instances. This allowed some non-compliant states, including California, to issue licenses that remained valid long after a driver's legal presence had expired. That reminds you of the police officer who was in the country unlawfully because his visa expired like 10 years ago. Because they don't have a system to fix that or catch that. And at the local levels, I guess they're not spending time verifying. Again, what did I just say? They'll verify your gender. They'll verify your ethnicity. They verify where you live, but they don't want to verify your citizenship status. Isn't that crazy? Okay. All right. I think Senator John Fetterman, which is our next clip, sums it up perfectly and what Democrats should be doing instead in reaction to all of this.
I will never understand why it's controversial to round up and deport all of the criminals here that are in our nation right now. And I'm proud to just agree that we need to secure our border. I don't know why these other kinds of things. And if they want to, run me out of the party for these kind of views, I mean, that's really it's up to them. But I'm going to continue.
I know a few people. I can connect you, and I know another party would probably welcome you with open arms. No, but in all seriousness, Senator.
Yeah, of course. But he's not going to go Republican, as you guys know. And in my live stream with Myron Gaines, we talked about it, how there are a lot of people out there that technically, if everything was reset, they're Democrats. But the party has they've gone off a cliff. I mean, Democrats are basically conservatives today. Now, they're not really conservatives, but you guys get what I'm saying here. Okay, let's hear what you guys have to say in the chat based on everything discussed. Let's go here. Okay. Yeah, we need him to stay on the Democratic left and just work for us from the inside. That's not a bad strategy. Yeah. Fetterman still votes with the Democrats 99.99% of the time. Well, he hasn't been doing it as far as his government shutdown is concerned. Yeah. They should stop sending boats if they don't want them to be blown out of the water. Don't read chat, DeVory. Too much fighting, feeding the trolls. Thank you for the heads up. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, you guys are really going at it today, huh? I think the victims of these killer drivers to kick the crap out of the governors who issued the license. This is ridiculous that these people got through the system. Yeah, and they will continue because the federal government is not really great at cracking down on much of anything if you think about it. It just costs way too much money. It's too much red tape. And private companies would be much more efficient, in my opinion. But we know that's not going to happen. Okay, let's go over to YouTube. See what you guys have to say about all this. Typically, a fully loaded 18-wheeler weighs around 80,000 pounds, which is the legal maximum weight in the United States. Yeah. Let's see here. How to take. Yep. It's interesting that I mean, how many more loopholes are in the system for these people to get CDLs is really the question. And, you know, for someone like Gavin Newsom, who prides himself on protecting Californians, right, and that the people of California should be safe and not in harm's way, why wouldn't you deport somebody like that? And by the way, even though they've already issued a detainer for this guy, the sheriff's department isn't going to hand him over. We do understand that, right? Like, let's make sure we're all clear about something. In majority of the blue states, if someone is finally arrested and thrown in jail, they are not handed over to ICE. So think about it as the taxpayer. You're already paying ICE to go out there and fix a crisis, which costs money, right? Then what happens is they can't even do their job all the way to its max capacity because on the other side of things, they are withholding these criminals in the jails. And that costs money. And what's interesting is then they say, well, we'll send this person to prison in our own country. I guarantee if you did a poll on American citizens, they don't want the person in our prison. They want the person gone. Why should we have to spend more money to keep an illegal alien in our jail system? Why don't we just, if we're going to spend the money to get them out of here and expel them immediately. Now, unless they murdered someone, which I understand that point, then don't even put them in a American jail. Send them to, you know, the prison that Abrigo Garcia went to that left Democrats all stunned. They flew down there. You know, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think if we're going to have illegal aliens in our prisons, it's got to be murder or something like that. If it's not that, just kick them out immediately. Get them out of this country. Because you never know, if you don't do it, they may get out of prison early. There may be a loophole, an appeal that a judge may grant down the road. It's just not good, right? Okay. Gaming the system has always been the way things work. We're just now seeing it in real time. I agree. Yeah, Fetterman is the only stable one left. I agree with you guys on that. Yeah, the problem in California is they're not going to check their citizenship status. It's almost like voter ID. If you ask someone for their ID when voting, they say that is against the law. So if you're checking someone's citizenship status, I'm sure they're going to treat it in the same way. Okay. Let's see here. DeVory, you must be doing a fantastic job because you've gotten under the skin of the Democrats and now they're crashing your comments in the chat. So, okay, so it's happening on Rumble and YouTube. That is so fascinating. So we must be doing something right. Okay. And matter of fact, this reminds me of my interview yesterday with Myron Gaines, co-host of Fresh and Fit. I got so many comments. I wouldn't say it was the majority, but it was good enough for me to issue this response. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to say, oh, I can't believe you brought someone on, I'm going to unfollow, why are you watching me to begin with then? You sound like a raging liberal, progressive who's sensitive. I want everybody on my show. Why? Because I think we should hear all sides. And if there's a side you don't agree with, they'll get exposed. You'll get to see why they think the way that they do. And if there's a side that you do agree with, you get to still understand why they think the way that they do. Why are conservatives why do they have their panties in a bunch about people who appear on podcasts? Or do you want us to be like Democrats and say, no, we're never going to have anybody that we disagree with on a podcast? Don't platform them. Is that what we're doing? I thought we're the arbiters of free speech. So just because you disagree with someone, can you exercise critical thinking skills and say, you know what? I disagree with what they believe in over here, but over here, what they're saying makes sense. Take what you can and leave the rest. That's higher thinking, not emotional thinking like Democrats do. That's why conservatives are never on their podcast. That's why you never see a conservative on ABC News or CBS. Why? It's like we're banned from appearing on those networks. Is that what you want alternative media, especially conservatives, to do? To ban people that we disagree with? We have to be better than that, folks. We just have to be better. And we have to be the example of what we want in our country. We got some people who are radicals. Let's hear from them so we know exactly how they think. Why? So we understand how to respond accordingly. The first thing, if you want to win in anything in life, is you need to understand the enemy in the way that they think. You don't understand the enemy, you don't understand yourself, you're going to lose 1,000 times over. The art of war for people who may not be familiar with that. Okay. We have a $20 super chat from Colby. My son was molested by an illegal at a Dollar Tree bathroom. We have DNA and video proof. The district attorney here in the Bay Area won't file. An ICE number doesn't work. I have the case number report. Can you please help me get in touch with anyone? Well, let's go back to the website we were on, which I believe, let's see if we can go back there. Here we go. Here we go. Victims. Think about this. This is divine, right? I didn't even know this was going to happen. Read the last sentence, everybody. Victims of illegal alien crime may receive support from the Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement Voice Office by contacting 1-855-488-6423. There's your phone number. Call them up. And I'll do you a favor. I've been pasting in the chat. Okay, let's go here. Let's respond. Here's the phone number. Boom. Okay, there it is. Yeah. There you go. I'd be on DHS's website. Yeah, and I do hope that you do get justice. In California, I don't know, but I think this is the right step for you, the next step. Okay. All right. I kind of lost my train of thought for good reason. Anyways, let me go back to what you guys were saying here in the Stephen A. Smith should run. Nah, I don't know anymore. I mean, this guy was apologizing to Jasmine Crockett yesterday. Did you guys know that? Because, he didn't want to offend her. He made her feel a certain type of way. Yeah, that's his words, which I find to be interesting. Okay, so coming up next, in case you guys don't know, which I assume you guys do, we have the quartering. Okay. But I'm going to keep reading these chats because we had a lot of trolls come in here and do the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm a little taken aback by what I had to read there about your son being molested. It's really sad. But I do have the optimism that you can get justice. I think the step one to getting justice on anything is to never quit. That's step number one. You've got to be hell bent on getting justice, and do not let any DA stop you. Okay. Do not let any politician tell you it's not possible. All right, let's see here. You have no idea how much I appreciate this. Yep, I'm glad we could be helpful. Yeah, for some reason, it's not allowing me to raid the quartering. So, I don't know. All right. I think we've come to the end here, guys. There are times I raise my eyebrows with your opinions, but I'm grateful that causes my wheels to spin. Yeah, listen, nobody agrees with anybody 100% of the time. I'm married. My wife doesn't agree with me 100% of the time, and neither do I. We're human beings. We have our own belief systems. We're all raised differently, okay? That's okay. That's the problem, is people can't accept that fact, that it's okay to disagree in our country. And when I say people, normally it's people on the left. If you disagree with them, it's hate speech, racist, bigotry, misogyny, every word in the book. Oh, actually, the new one is you're a Nazi. That's the new one. Okay? All right. Okay, I think we've come to the end here. I want to appreciate everybody for joining us live today. Again, we go live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, bringing you common sense commentary for these uncommon times. And again, if you guys got any value, please subscribe to our channel, both on Rumble and YouTube. And share it with some of your coworkers, your family members, your colleagues that they may be on the fence and they're looking for someone to give them a much more, both sides picture of what's happening in our country. And I guarantee you it's going to help them see things much more clear. But more importantly, I want to say God bless you and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.